The morning sun filtered through the canopy of Verden 7, casting dappled shadows across the forest clearing where Kayla had set up camp. She knelt beside her portable stove, stirring a pot of reconstituted protein porridge while humming an old Earth tune. 3 months into her xenobiology research assignment, and she'd finally gotten used to the planet's humid air and the constant chirping of the local fauna. What she hadn't gotten used to were the cubs. 7 of them sat in a semicircle around her campfire, their golden fur catching the light, their large amber eyes tracking every movement of her spoon. They were Valkyrie, a species the Galactic Council had classified as emerging sentience, preliminary observation stage, which meant Kayla was supposed to observe without interfering in their development. The smallest one, whom Kayla had nicknamed Ruff for the distinctive tuft of dark fur around his neck, sat closest. His ears twitched constantly, alert to every sound in the forest. "You guys ever get tired of watching me eat?" Kayla asked, not expecting an answer. The cubs had been following her for weeks, keeping their distance, but always present. They seemed fascinated by her daily routines. Ruff chittered softly, a sound the other cubs echoed. Then his head snapped toward the eastern tree line. Kayla noticed the change immediately. The forest had gone quiet. She'd learned to trust that silence. On Verden 7, silence meant predators. The attack came fast. 6 Kashnar soldiers burst from the undergrowth, their armored forms moving with practiced military precision. Their weapons were raised, targeting sensors gleaming red in the morning light. The insectoid species had been fighting a border war with the Council for decades, and apparently they'd decided a lone human researcher made an easy target for interrogation. Kayla's hand moved toward her emergency beacon, but the lead Kashnar was faster. A warning shot scorched the ground near her feet. "Human researcher Kayla Martinez," the soldier's translator crackled. "You will accompany us for questioning regarding Council military installations in this sector." "I'm a xenobiologist," Kayla said, raising her hand slowly. "I don't know anything about military." That's when Ruff moved. The cub's chitter became a sharp, commanding bark. The other cubs responded instantly, not with panic, but with coordination that made Kayla's breath catch. They didn't scatter. They didn't flee. They attacked, but not recklessly. Not with the wild abandon of frightened animals. They attacked with strategy. 3 cubs darted left, their small forms moving in perfect synchronization. They targeted the Kashnar on that flank, not charging head-on, but using the terrain, fallen logs, thick roots, shadows to confuse and divide. Another 2 cubs went right, mirroring the tactic. Ruff stayed near Kayla, his body positioned between her and the lead soldier, but his eyes never stopped moving, assessing, directing with short barks and chirps. A Kashnar soldier aimed at one of the flanking cubs, but before he could fire, another cub leaped from a low branch, landing on the soldier's back and covering his targeting sensors with tiny paws. The soldier stumbled, trying to shake the cub off. The remarkable thing wasn't just that the cubs were fighting. It was that they were winning, and they never stopped eating. One cub, even while dodging plasma fire, snatched a piece of dried fruit from Kayla's supply pack. Another grabbed a nutrition bar mid-roll, tearing it open with its teeth while using its body weight to trip a soldier. Ruff himself, in a moment of absolute audacity, dipped his paw into Kayla's porridge pot during a brief lull, licked it clean, then immediately resumed his defensive position. The Kashnar soldiers were clearly unprepared for this. Their species operated on strict hierarchical combat protocols. They expected either flight or straightforward aggression. What they got was organized chaos. Small, furry opponents who treated a firefight like an elaborate game that happened to coincide with breakfast. "Fall back, regroup," the lead Kashnar commander ordered, but his troops were already scattered, separated by the cubs' coordinated assault. Kayla watched in stunned amazement as Ruff barked a new series of commands. The pattern of the attack shifted. The cubs tightened their formation, driving the soldiers together, making them bunch up in the clearing's center where their superior firepower became a liability. They couldn't shoot without risking hitting each other. One soldier tried to grab a cub, but the little Valkyrie twisted in his grip with impossible flexibility, bit down on his weapon's power pack, and released it just as another cub kicked a rock at the destabilized energy cell. The resulting explosion wasn't large, but it was enough. The Kashnar's weapons flickered offline, their armor's systems scrambled by the electromagnetic pulse. The soldiers retreated, stumbling over roots and each other in their haste to escape the clearing. Within minutes, they'd vanished into the forest, likely convinced they'd stumbled into a council military trap rather than a breakfast interrupted by determined cubs. Silence returned, broken only by the sound of 7 Valkyrie cubs chittering triumphantly while raiding Kayla's food supplies, in earnest now, apparently deciding they'd earned the reward. Ruff approached Kayla, sat down and looked up at her with those intelligent amber eyes. He held a piece of her protein bar in his small paws. Slowly, deliberately, he broke it in half and offered one piece to her. Kayla took it with a shaking hand. "Thank you," she whispered. The cub chittered softly, then rejoined his companions at the meal they defended. That evening, Kayla filed her report to the Galactic Council. She requested an immediate upgrade to the Valkyrie's classification status. Emerging sentience didn't begin to cover it. Any species that could coordinate a military defense while simultaneously managing a breakfast buffet wasn't just intelligent. They were ready for the stars. And humanity, Kayla noted with pride, had been there to witness their first battle. Not as conquerors or teachers, but as the person they'd chosen to protect. Because that's what mattered. Not that humans were particularly strong or fast or powerful compared to the galaxy's other species. What made humanity special was recognizing potential in others, even when they were small, covered in fur, and stealing your porridge. The cubs had added soldiers to their meal without losing rhythm. And Kayla had added a new ally to humanity's future.